We recently heard some breaking news in the Ripple SEC lawsuit. Ripple reacts to the second appeal of the court Torres verdict in this video. I'd want to go over Ripple's comments on the SEC's appeal and their arguments against the court. Torres adopting it will also go over what the various attorneys have to say about whether or not the SEC will be allowed to appeal this ruling, just so you know, Judge. Torres was essentially asked by the SEC to appeal her judgment, and Judge Torres must make Ripple was stating the justifications for Judge Torres' rejection to assess if Judge Torres will allow the SEC to appeal. I'd like to show you what John Deaton has to say about this verdict. All of the attorneys, including Jeremy Hogan, are saying, "This is critical since it will effectively define how much clarity Ripple has to operate its company in the United States, which we'll go through in this video. To be more precise, at the end of the movie, I'd like to demonstrate why Ripple is critical for the United States to remain competitive in the future. However, with the ongoing Ripple SEC case, I believe this is easily forgotten. Watch the complete video to learn why you won't want to miss it." So, only a few minutes ago, Ripple asked Judge Torres to appeal the case in opposition to the SEC, and just so you know, in a court case, you usually have to wait until everything is finished before proceeding with a procedure known as an interlocutory. The SEC is attempting to appeal this judgment early, but for the SEC to win, they must demonstrate that there is some type of emergency, and they must file their appeal right now. Otherwise, they must wait until the issue is resolved, and as we all know, a trial is still required. In essence, the SEC is indicating that it does not want the matter to go to trial. Judge Torres has just reached a ruling that has us quite concerned. The SEC is simply furious that they lost and don't want to wait years for the ruling to possibly be overturned, so they want to try it now. They must immediately and effectively, "Will you allow us to appeal, Judge Torres?" They could simply appeal if they waited until the dispute was completed and then requested Judge Torres' approval. I'd like to begin by outlining Ripple's true answer to this to provide us with an accurate picture of whether or not Judge Torres will allow this appeal to proceed. I'd like to go over Stuart Alderati tweeted in response to the motion made by attorneys like John Deaton. "We deny the SEC's request via Ripple. He asserts no grounds for an interlocutory appeal. In this case, an extraordinary circumstance arises that would allow for a break from the rule mandating that all disputes between all parties be resolved before filing an appeal." Essentially, Stuart Eldorado is implying that this choice was very normal. Nothing out of the ordinary occurred. The SEC should not be allowed to file an appeal now and skip the conventional procedure. They now answered in much more technical language. We will not go over everything in detail. The majority of it was just case law notation. In normal circumstances, the majority of the attorneys feel that Ripple is correct. The SEC should not be able to bypass the process and decide that they wish to submit an appeal right immediately. They did so because they disagreed with Judge Torres' decision, which is typically impossible. However, I'd like to read to you what John Deaton has truly said about his beliefs. Will occur because I sincerely believe that what John Deaton writes here will most likely occur. As John Deaton pointed out, it's far more bullish than most people believe. I would lean toward the judge because I believe the lawyers representing Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson will make an even better case about the Secretary's request for a stay. Torres would have denied the Secretary's request to file an interlocutory appeal if it hadn't been for the rank-off judgment. That the SEC is nowhere near meeting the conditions for an early appeal. However, now that the rank of judgment has been made public, she will have the opportunity to explain why her decision was reached. The decision is reasonable and supported by evidence, which adds to its appeal. Proof that John Deaton has presented an insightful perspective here, and I believe he is correct when he says there are no unusual instances, which the SEC should be allowed to deviate from the regular process. As a result, the SEC should not be allowed to file an interlocutory appeal, but as John Deaton points out, and this is fascinating, we just saw Judge Rankoff, who presided over the Luna case and declared that he disagreed with Judge Torres, appear to upset the market and give people a bad feeling. The issue of whether Judge Torres was correct was brought up. She is mistaken, according to John Tayton, who expects Judge Torres will use the SDC's request to return and respond to all of Judge Ranoff's questions. In essence, Judge Torres intends to use the SAC process to fight back harder and clear up any questions about what happened in the Luna case. This would be incredibly positive for Ripple, since it would imply that the most compelling argument against Judge Torres' judgment would be debunked beyond all reasonable doubt, and Judge Torres would have the option to reply. This would make it more difficult for the SDC to effectively appeal the ruling once the action is concluded. To put everything into context, the SEC, according to John Deaton, should lose this interlocutory appeal, but Judge Torres will allow them to file it so that she can reply to everyone who criticizes her. This would be quite positive for Ripple's chances in any subsequent appeal. Consequently, I sincerely hope she enables the SEC to challenge this. We are all well aware of how horrible things are. The legal team was negligent and presented poor arguments. They will not succeed on appeal in either instance, in my opinion. I simply believe it will be a bad appearance. If we get another chance for Judge Torres to bash the SEC a second time, it will be extremely difficult for them to win any future cases. Judge Torres, in my opinion, will be an excellent judge. I genuinely hope that SEC has provided the chance to appeal at any point during the SEC proceedings. The SEC needs to be put back in their place, and I hope Judge Torres gives them another smackdown. But before I do, I'd want to quickly go on and show you an interview that recently emerged in my feed, even though it isn't a recent interview. This one didn't get much attention, and I just want to demonstrate why Ripple will be so important to the US, because so many people are confused about it. Guys, please understand that the US needs to remain competitive in the cryptocurrency field before I play this interview for you. As indicated in the interview, blockchain technology and cryptocurrency are the wave of the future for transferring value. Governments in other countries, such as China, will develop their versions. These platforms, however, are not how things work in the United States. The private sector is always used in the United States, and I haven't come across a single firm or digital asset that has the ability that Ripple has in the United States. Necessitates Ripples as a result. After listening to this interview, everything will become further clearer. The People's Bank of China's national digital currency and the related government-run networks will be accessible soon. The People's Bank of China asserts that the so-called China's coin will allow international money transfers, promote investment into the country, and potentially even dodge trade barriers. But where are the United States and the Federal Reserve government participants? What is the state of the national cryptocurrency race? What does this mean for privately held cryptocurrency tokens in the United States? Furthermore, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, whose XRP cryptocurrency is one of the most popular, I just had a chat. Today, taking what he said, how do you feel about the news that China has completed its prototype for an yuan-backed China coin that is going to launch a digital network? It should be a call to action for the US, in my opinion, until now the US. I believe she has been actively considering this, but no one has shown leadership since the internet's inception 25 years ago. The United States was a pioneer in essential technology that helped shape the country into what it is today. This has been excellent for the economy of the United States. These are novel and significant. We must take note of how strongly China has positioned itself in this situation. Are we because Jay Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, has expressed doubt about cryptocurrencies, and President Trump doesn't much like the situation, perhaps because they think it's the Wild West, or perhaps because they don't fully comprehend it. Chime and the People's Bank of China have possession of this, and they are ready to release it. There are concerns that this could jeopardize the US dollar. I would advise President Trump and Chairman Powell not to generalize about all cryptocurrencies. What you see in their statements, in my opinion, are fairly broad perceptions that encryption can be used unlawfully, that transactions can be made anonymously using cryptography, that the US should not ignore the situation or fail to recognize that not all of this is related to those incidents of illegal use of encryption, that transactions can be made anonymously using cryptography, that the US should not ignore that the fact that China sees this future is what leads me to assume that the country is leaning toward China. however, maintains that they may evade or bypass the limits that the United States has put on specific nations by utilizing their currency. As a result, I believe you are true when you say they see an opportunity to undermine the US dollar. Ripple is not competing with the US dollar. Rather, it is competing with any currency. We are simply seeking to simplify these payments by employing both our technologies and the open source XRP ledger technology that is used. That is the most important point. Ripple has no intention of undermining the currency. Ripple does not attempt to destabilize. These groups are seeking to assist them in competing, but the SEC does not slow down other countries. These technologies are more powerful. Other countries will construct payment rails, and the United States will eventually give up if they do not start innovating and attempting to do so. If they stay at their current pace, they will lose their platform. This entire year, the United States, which serves as the hub of the international financial system, is in desperate need of Ripple and XRP. The anti-crypto position will eventually have to alter, since it is clear to everyone that blockchain solutions and cryptocurrency technology are how value will be exchanged globally. In the future, Ripple will be required to provide the solution to how America will preserve its financial industry. XRP already has global dominance. Gentlemen, I sincerely appreciate your presence. I hope you enjoyed this update. Please remember to like and subscribe if you did. It means a lot.